Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Multifamily Chronicles. I'm super excited today to introduce you to an amazing guest and to an amazing guest co host. I'm going to start with a co host. My co host today is Jason Simpson. Uh, Today is his first episode on Multifamily Chronicles as a guest co host. He's a multifamily leader, he's a multifamily maintenance operations leader in Texas and a rising star in the industry. Welcome to the show, Jason.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Jason, I'm going to let you introduce our guest today. Take it away.
Right. Welcome to the show, Lissi. Glad to have you here. Would you like to share some of your highlights of your industry journey?
Yeah. Hi. Thank you, Adrian and Jason, for having me on your show. Super excited about it. Man, highlights. Let's go back over 16 years, right? One of my highlights is being on the show today on Multifamily Chronicles and being able to discuss one of my favorite things of, facilitating in my new session that is coming out within this year. But man, let's kind of expand back. I've been in the industry for over 16 years. I started out as a leasing consultant / marketing specialist. So who would have thought I would be here today, right? With with my growth and as a leader in our industry. But also, I can span from different travels, meeting new people, connecting with people in our industry, just growth, everything. I can't tell you how far I could go back, as much as highlights from starting off in the industry as a leasing all the way up to VP of Learning and Marketing, and then now doing my own thing as a speaker and doing that full time. That is a journey that is probably going to be another podcast to go through on that.
So, Lissi, with your 16 years in the industry, you have a plethora of experience, which means what you're bringing today is something purpose-driven. Now, my question is, what inspired you to create? First of all, what inspired you to go on your own? And then I want to go into the specifics of, I guess, part of what we're here today, which is the program that you have created. But let's start one at a time.
Yeah. So what inspired me to go on my own? Well, I've always had the knack of, training and speaking. Speaking is my passion. And that's something that I always wanted to do in the past 6 years, as far as, being able to make a bigger impact on people, to be able to create a different material and really just encourage individuals to see what they have within inside of themselves and to be able to expand that, right? And I wasn't able to really do that unless I did it on my own, foreshadow any events of not being in corporate America. But at the end of the day, I love what I do. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to take this leap. I had the opportunity that came, and it was either you take that leap and you do it, or you kind of fall back. And I was like, you know what, this is my time, and I'm going to see where this journey takes me. And boy, has it been a ride. And next, what was the other question? I'm sorry. I got so caught up in that one.
The next question is about the program, the maintenance program that you have crafted. That what led you? Like what sparked that I guess desire to create this program? What's behind it?
Yeah, so I'm always eager to make a positive impact, like I mentioned before, and raise awareness. And so my goal was to always think of stuff that was going to inspire change or motivate and create that different action within teams. But as a facilitator, I realized, with training sessions, you don't see a lot of focused training on soft skills, which in what comes with customer experience, customer service within your teams, leasing and maintenance. And so I was like, you know what? I think I need to kind of step out and try to think outside the box and do something new. And that is how my session kind of developed, because I got that aha moment of it. Honestly, I was a speaker at an education conference, and I had the opportunity to do this course with maintenance supervisors. And it was really fun. The collaboration, the brainstorming sessions, the activities, the excitement on their faces when we really focused with them really kind of made me like, you know what, I'm going to add more to it. And that's how collaboration to customer service, developing high performing maintenance teams evolved.
So one question I want to ask is who is this training created and targeted for? PMs or facility managers? A lot of PMs are going to defer to the facility manager for the final say because they understand the skill set a little bit more intimately. Is this something that somebody like me, an on-site facility manager, could jump into and utilize?
Yeah, definitely. I believe that this course is for not only facility managers, but also for PMs, because I think you got to work hand in hand, right? That is that communication and also building your teams to be successful. And without one and out the other, how can you do that? So I think this course could benefit the both as well.
Lissi, I want to ask you about engagement next. A common opinion expressed by many at the site level is that the online training is typically non-effective, and the mindset is do it as quick as possible so we can get back to work. How do you plan on making this program engaging so that the value in it is realized, it's appreciated?
No, that's a really great question. I think a lot of teams have, I've heard, and even in my experience, have witnessed and seen that. And I think you have to really incorporate interactive elements within your training, right? I don't think you could just put anyone in front of a computer for hours on hours and say, okay, learn this task, learn this course, and be efficient with it. And in my theory within my training is I try to incorporate different activities, games, quizzes, brainstorming sessions, really group effort, because I believe everybody learns differently. And so when you could do that, then what happens is you're going to have more takeaways from it. So definitely brainstorming and group and having fun at the same time. I will definitely bring the fun and energy with that. But ultimately, I think it involves that connection within your courses, and people like human connection. They like to be able to be drawn in, whether it's webinar or in-person training as well.
So,
this is fun. Come on.
I mean, you definitely have a point right then and there. You do have to keep it fun and entertaining to an extent. The number one way to lose something is to make it boring. I mean, let's just be honest. We've all done online trainings where we're just sitting there, just clicking a button, drinking coffee, trying to keep our eyes open. So keeping it fun and engaging, that sounds fantastic to me right off the rip, to be honest.
Yeah, and I will even add to that, Jason, real quick, is when you have those sessions or have those trainings that are online, make it a group effort, have it where your teams can work together and be able to talk through it and have a better understanding of what information they're obtaining to be able to be effectively in their field or in their role at the same time.
So, okay. You're fine. So I want to talk about customer feedback because it is part of the program. One thing I notice on site is I can do a million things perfectly right. You'll never hear any feedback, but I mess up once, you're going to hear about that. What's your number one way to engage residents and customers to give us feedback? Because we need to know that it's actually making an impact with our residents.
Yeah, I think you need to seek feedback regularly, right? Not just in times when something is bad. I think it has to be a constant effort, a team effort. You have to go through, surveys or suggestion boxes, or even in person when you have those conversations. But make sure when you are asking for feedback and you're looking for feedback that you're actively listening to your residents and your customers so that they can understand that when you do your follow-up, that they know that they're being heard and they're being valued within your community. I think it's very important. And have those checkpoints, don't always wait for someone to come to you for that bad, or if you do hear the bad, because I guarantee there's some great feedback out there as well. It's just taking the initiative.
Lissi, hard skills versus soft skills. What do you find the most value in between the two? And what do you find the most difficult for maintenance employees to learn between the two? What do you think are the most challenging skills to learn for maintenance personnel?
Soft skills are the most challenging because, maintenance teams know their jobs, right? They know their role. They know that skill set to why they got hired on board within the team. The soft skills is a little bit more challenging because then it teaches us how to open up with communication effectively, how to really build that team that team camaraderie, right, at the same time, but also understanding what goals are and how to have the ending results for what you're trying to do within your organization as a whole. And I think we overlook that with the soft skills. I think at the end of the day, that's something that we kind of pull back from when it comes to training. And I'm so passionate about it because I think with any organization or with any maintenance or leasing teams and operating, you have to have those soft skills to be able to communicate with your residents, your customers, to be able to get those 5-star reviews that you're ultimately aiming for. And so if we put more emphasis on teaching those or, providing that to your teams, then it can work. And it can start with your leaders, right? And then your maintenance supervisors, and then they can be effective with their team and challenge them like, hey, what is your goals? How can I help you? How can I get you to that level? And so definitely soft skills. Hard skills are something that is going to be already prone with them to what they know. Soft skills are going to be a little bit more challenging, but it can work. It can be done.
So I have a follow-up question here, Lissi. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are you saying that take people that have the technical skills, that know how to fix things, and let's teach them the soft skills, right? So
Correct.
Is that what you're suggesting, right? Don't disqualify someone from
Based
the
off of,
get-go
yes.
based on the lack of soft skills, correct? Because they could be taught. Am I saying it
Can.
my way?
Mm-hmm. Correct. That is right, Adrian. I think sometimes we look at that and I'm like, you can teach it. That's something that is learned, and that's something that we can kind of, evolve in within your training courses or, in person. So
Just to touch on that, I
yeah.
just want to say that I love what you're doing because the soft skill set is so insanely valuable. A lot of people don't realize how important being well-spoken, being kind, respectful, and thorough with your residents is so important to retention.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are the number one face of the property 9 times out of 10. I mean, nowadays with the advent of paying online, most of these people aren't even coming in the office. They're going to see us first. If we're kind, we're respectful, we have these soft skills to communicate to our residents, it's going to increase the experience for them, but it's also going to increase the retention for our client.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even though we work for the residents, ultimately we work for the client, and we want our residents to stay. They stay, they make more money. Soft skills are so valuable.
They're very, very valuable. I
the
love
most
that you guys
difficult thing
believe
to teach.
that.
That is the most difficult thing to teach because I can go online, I can figure out how to fix anything. There's not as much easily accessible material that's understandable and easy to digest for soft skills. That is something that you have to kind of find somebody who knows what they're doing with that. So I love what you're doing with that.
Thank you.
And we're going to circle right back to that question almost. How do you think this program is going to improve the technician's career path?
Oh gosh, I think it's going to affect them in such a positive way because think about the growth. Think about if they want to go to the next level of their roles, and especially if it gets to a point where they want to even seek out leadership. You have to have that soft skills for leadership to be able to not only communicate with your team, be influential with your team, be open with your team, be able to understand how to effectively run, and build a team in that sense. So I think it's very important for their career path in any situation, even life, right? I think soft skills are very important outside of that as well.
Let's talk about improvement and ways to track that. Lissi, to me, the biggest challenge when it comes to training is how do we measure progress, right? And the challenges are many. One of the challenges is that people don't stick around long enough, so we get enough data points to show that our programs are effective. We have turnover rates, employee turnover rates, they're like ridiculous at the site level, probably 70-80% a year, honestly. And this doesn't go just for maintenance, but it's just a very high level of turnover. So when you have that level of turnover, you only have like from year to year, you have like 20% legacy knowledge. That's not sufficient to pull enough data points to say, okay, my programs are effective, or any programs for that matter, not just yours. So what are some suggestions? What's your method to track the progress on this program and in your with your programs in general?
That's a really great question. And sometimes it's really hard to actually track the progress when it comes to your sessions trainings. But when you really are trying to push out a session like this within maintenance and really dealing with your customers, I think the number one is KPIs and making sure you have something involved within that, within your teams and their modules, to be able to see where they are at from year to year, right? Or from month to month, or 6 months, or not, whatever it is that they're tracking, to see if it's working. So it's almost like if I'm coming in at the beginning of the year to start pushing these programs, then by the time the end of the year, you should see, okay, has it changed? Is there any gaps, or is it closed? Is it gone, up? And I think that's how you can measure. On top of that, with any of their in-place module surveys, like with Kingsley or with Jay Turner, all of those are tracking resources that can actually help to see what the teams are, if they're developing and growing in that area.
So back again, I feel like, what do you find one of the most challenging aspects of implementing this program, though?
Oh gosh, that's a really one. My most challenging is ensuring that everyone is committed to the session, right? And not only top of that, but is excited, because it's very difficult to really go to operating and say, hey, I have a training session that's strictly based off soft skills, and I need your maintenance teams to attend it, or your maintenance supervisors to attend the course because of the importance of it. But I have to really go back and really show you what the value of this course can bring, right? And the areas that it can help your team grow. Because at the end of the day, your team members, just because they're in certain positions, they're wanting to grow, they're wanting to learn. How can you do those key takeaways to get them to that, to where they could be very well rounded? And it's not just a skill set, but it's also that soft skills that's going to help them grow and navigate in their career path. So I think it's really about the value of it, and really making sure that operating teams understand that it is important to pour into your teams, and making sure that they're set up for success as well on the training and development career or side.
I mean, you're going to be hard pressed to find people who aren't interested in growing their career. I mean, definitely are some people who are happy where they're at, but you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody who's not interested in that. I do agree with that.
Lissi, as national speaker, how do you perceive the current state of the multifamily industry, and what changes do you anticipate seeing in 2024 and beyond?
Well, when I saw this, I was like, wow, this is a great question, because there's so many changes, and I can only speak to my own. And I truly believe that the new trends of innovation, right, is going to really be effective. Technology is taking another world. I really do speak on AI as well when it comes to keeping that customer experience and that human touch, because I think everything's going to be automated, and so if we're not at the place where we're growing in that direction and really looking at different things in automation to really help be more efficient within our teams, then yeah, that could kind of slow some operation teams backwards. But I think there's always room for growth. Our industry is evolving day to day. So it just depends on, what we're like aiming into growing with.
So I have a follow-up question here. You mentioned AI. I want to
Yes.
get your take on AI, right? A lot of people are looking at it and seeing it as a threat. Like, hey, we're gonna lose jobs. AI is gonna take over certain jobs through automation, so on and so forth. Now, the fear of technology has been present since probably the Industrial Revolution at the early 1900s, or even before that. But let's just say, I think that's a good point to start. The Industrial Revolution at the beginning of 20th century, people were fearful, right, that they don't use horses. There's like a steam engine right now that came in and is going to take people's jobs. Reality is that in time, technology has made people's lives way better,
Mm-hmm.
right, and way had made their labor like less intensive, and more efficient. What's your take on AI? Do we need to see it as a threat? Is there an enhancement? Is it gonna take over the world? Is AI gonna like kill us? Us into oblivion, like just
Well, hopefully not the last part. It's not going to
yeah.
kill us, but I definitely believe that if we learn to adapt with AI, then we definitely can be more efficient. I think it's something that is here. It's growing, and I think that if teams really integrate it within their communication, it helps you. It enhances that, right? And I think at the end of the day is we don't need to be scared of it. As long as we can continue to keep that human touch with it and still personalize it, but utilize it as something that's going to help make our systems more efficient, but also make sure that we are not missing the point when it comes to our customers and really staying on top of those trends. Because again, it's not going nowhere. We just have to be effective with integrating it and not be scared of it. And if you do have those technologies and you're incorporating those within your teams, we have to be very mindful that we are training our teams up towards that new technology so they could be efficient and make it effective, because if not, then we're going to lose our customers at the end of the day, right? And so what we want to do is make sure that everyone's trained up. See, speaking on my training side, making sure they're trained up within all the utilization of it, to where then they could be affected with it. That's then's going to sit there and be pushed out to your customer, because ultimately that's the communication out there is your customers. And if we don't, then your customers are going to go to the next. And so we don't want to lose that at the end of the day.
One other question, Lissi, here regarding technology. I was invited to UpTech, a PropTech conference back in November. And one of the conversations on one of the panels was a industry leader was saying he was part of a conversation where someone was stating that at their company, the leasing agents are required to be proficient in 54 different pieces of software. And then the reply from somebody else came and said, well, at 54, you're still good. At our company, the number is 63. So you have a entry-level employee, a leasing agent, that comes in and you ask them, you expect them, the expectation is for them to know, to be proficient in 50 or 60 plus different softwares. Is this reasonable? I think we're at the state, what brought us here? Like what brought us to, how did we get here, first of all? And how do we solve it? Because, we're at this point where the way I call it, the way I describe it is we are punishing our people with technology. Do you disagree with my statement? What's your take on this?
I don't think it's so much punishing in a simple fact of just growing. I think where we can help our teams more is if you're going to push out over all these technology systems for your teams to utilize and to be effective, we got to remember from day one, we better have the training and resources to set them up from that day and be able to put things on timelines, because no one can learn that many technology systems in just 30, 60, or 90 days. It does take time. It is a lot to just soak in, but also to gravitate and understand the concept of it as well. So I do agree with you in the sense it is overload, but we can make it where it's more efficient if you have the tools and the resources from the beginning, especially if you have a leasing agent coming on board. Make sure you have everything of expectations set up from the start, having those programs, having someone training, having someone work, with them. And maybe that's within a mentorship program or a coach, whatever that the companies have adapted or have, within their modules to be able to be effective. Because at the end of the day, if you're not setting up your team members from day one, then you're going to lose your team members. And that's where that turnover rate is, because of the things that you're trying to be more effective with at the long run.
Just a touch on that, having the 50 to 60 pieces of software to be able to understand and be competent in, that is mind-blowing for an entry-level position. So I'm learning a lot more about the computer-based stuff. I feel like as we go, we're going to have a little bit of evolution in the maintenance supervisor's role, that we're going to have a lot more computer-based work to do as well, as being on-site, hands-on. And it can be a little bit overwhelming learning a new program. So I couldn't even imagine 50 to 60 different programs. That's
a
wild
lot.
to me,
Yeah.
especially
And
for
I
an
think
entry-level position. I mean, I fully expect a PM to understand 50 to 60 pieces of software, but I don't expect a leasing agent. But expectations are rapidly evolving in this industry.
mm-hmm. And I think that's where those expectations has to kind of have a point where you're thinking, okay, how is this going to really affect my on-site? Because they're the ones handling it all, right? And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that your on-site is very set up for success. And that is making sure you have all training components to do this when you're rolling out or have any initiatives of that, because again, it's going to affect them. And if it affects them, then it affects your customer. And then what happens is you lose at the end of the day, and you don't want that.
So obviously your dedication to leadership development is very clear. We see that, we can hear it. What strategies are you finding most effective in driving talent development within these teams?
Constantly check-ins, right? Making sure you have regular check-ins, making sure you're not waiting until you have the performance reviews, evaluations to see how your team is doing, making sure you're constantly evolving and growing and building them to have training opportunities, development opportunities, whether that is in-house, whether that you bring someone in, or whether that is reaching out and being involved in your local associations, because there's a lot of opportunity within that as well. But also making sure that you're setting up that expectation from the beginning and understanding what that development looks like for every single team member and building that. But also, if you have a mentorship program, implementing that, that's very, very helpful for your team members, as well as coaching. You don't really see coaching as much as you do nowadays. And I think it's so important as leaders, we're all leaders, that we give back that coaching and expertise to set up your team members to be successful from day one. And how does that look like, and how can you sit there and build that? Because ultimately, if you want to have a successful team and less turnover, your teams, especially the younger generation, they soak that knowledge of wanting to learn and really grow and advance. But we have to be the ones to actually pour back into them and do that. So I think it really I think I went off the hedge on that, but I think it really is about putting back in and doing those check-ins with your teams regularly and setting them up on day one.
I mean, absolutely. Starting off this industry was I didn't have a supervisor until I was a supervisor, if that makes sense. We really have to invest in mentoring, in my opinion. I do agree with you on that. Giving these people the tools to succeed. We can't get mad at somebody if they're failing if we're not giving them what they need to not fail. So
Exactly.
Absolutely, I'm a huge advocate of mentoring and programs like that. So 100% on board with you right there.
And I will also add in, let's be really realistic of our time frames of learning things.
Absolutely. You cannot expect somebody to understand the HVAC system in 30 minutes.
Right. I would be scared if someone give people time to really know their roles. And yes, they could be seasoned. Every company does things differently. Every organization has a different way of implementing stuff. So you have to make sure that if you have someone fresh and new in the industry or seasoned, that you're giving people time to really navigate that and evolve at the same time.
Lissi, as an industry leader with such a wealth of experience, knowledge, and wisdom, what advice would you have for multifamily professionals that are looking to thrive and move up the ladder in the industry, go to corporate positions, to the executive level positions? What are some pieces of advice that you have for them?
I honestly would say is to never give up on whatever you're trying to aim for or strive for, right, within your role. Always make sure that you are asking different questions, making sure you're learning different material in the sense of a different role, right, to actually grow within that. But also, one thing I always say, if you're growing into that, make sure you reach out to a mentor or a coach in the industry that is an expert within whatever area, or your actual supervisor, your leader, and really say, hey, I want to grow. This is what I my goals are, this is my expectations, how can I get there and navigate through that. And then as leaders, let's then take that back and say, okay, I'm going to help you. And this is what steps we need to do. And this is where you can learn. And maybe that's taking additional courses in your LMSs, or taking different courses in the local association, or being certified, right, within your roles to get to that next level and grow. I think those are all important, but you got to be open to that, right? And as leaders, we have to also be open to being transparent and knowing that we're here to lead people up and grow in that sense. If I had that coach and mentor back in that time and navigated me through those steps, I would soak them up. But I've had mentors that have helped me grow to where I'm at today, as to why I have the confidence to step out and do this as a speaker and do my own thing, because people that are in your life that help you grow inspire that. And I see it all the time, especially when I facilitate CALP, and these leasing consultants, they come in and their minds are just like, whoa, I could do this. And then at the end of the day, it's like, how do you navigate that? How do you get to that next level? And it's offering that mentorship. It's offering that coaching ability. It's offering your skill set, right? Your skill set, your soft skills, to help them to be able to grow at the same time. So I think they're out there. They want it. It's just us being able to guide them in that direction and help them. And I think that's the most important.
So obviously you have to set measurable goals. How do you set measurable goals that are aligned with company objectives? Can you give me an example how you would do something like that?
How to set measurable goals? Well, I'm a big advocate of SMART goals, right? You have to make sure that they are very specific. They are very attainable too, at the sense, but you can align your SMART goals with your company objectives. And usually your company objectives have different KPI goals that you're trying to aim for to get to where you're at in each individual role. But I think you have to break those goals down, right? I think you have to start how am I going to get there? What is it going to take me to get there? And then start implementing it. It's all about not just speaking the goals. It's also about putting the action behind the goals, right? To see it. And also knowing to not, what I always would say, don't worry if you don't get the goals that day. Start with one goal a day and kind of work towards that, because at the end of the day, you'll see them progress and your results will get bigger, right? Small goals, big results. Takes day by day. And I think that's how you can get to that and be very successful with it.
Absolutely.
Lissi, ongoing training and development are emphasized in your program. What specific training initiatives do you recommend for maintaining a high performance maintenance team, and how do they contribute to exceeding customer expectations?
I recommend several different types of courses. I think with maintenance, we are always just limiting them to just the skill set type of course training that they are supposed to come in and know, but be open to different types of learning development, right? And that's a lot of leadership. That's not even leadership, that's influence courses. That's also even this course, customer experience and customer service courses, which is very important, but also knowing how to be a team player, right? And how does that look like? And so I help navigate that with the things that my program offers, but it's also making sure that we are having those conversations to be able to help develop our team members from day one. I think I kind of answered that. Sometimes I feel like all my questions are going into this.
They're good answers. They're very insightful. So we mentioned customer feedback a couple of times. It's essential for continuous improvement. How do you guide participants in gathering and utilizing customer feedback within the multifamily maintenance context?
Well, that's constantly asking the right questions, right? That's making sure that you are asking the questions to your customers so you can be able to respond. Follow up when you ask those questions afterwards so that then they know, again, that they're being heard. But at the end of the day, if we're not asking, how do we not know? We can't assume. And then what happens is then you get that bad customer review, and that's what we're not aiming for. So really work with your teams to understand how to ask those right questions to be able to help your customers to be able to get those 5-star reviews, because those are what we want, at the end of the day.
So I just want to touch on that. I'm a little bit more outgoing than most maintenance guys. I'm not going to lie. I like to talk. I like to chat with the residents while I'm working. It doesn't bother me. And I have no issue asking for a review after I'm done. But a lot of maintenance guys feel that feels very disingenuous. They feel awkward. They don't feel comfortable doing so. Is there any recommendations on how to get them out of their shell where they feel more comfortable? Because we all know once we get these reviews, we hit our KPIs, our boss is happy. When our boss is happy, their boss is happy. Is there any way that you could recommend getting these guys out of their shell to do so?
It's always hard to get people out of their shell when they're not used to being, because they're introverts, right? At the end of the day. So I will always suggest to go to your leaders and say, hey, I'm not comfortable asking these certain questions. Can you help me come up with some questions that's going to be able to promote that? And in that way, then they can actually practice. Role play goes back. It's just like with leasing consultants and overcoming objections, right? It's how to actually turn that no into a yes. But at the end of the day, it's actually with your maintenance team and being comfortable enough with them to go and ask the actual customer or the resident to say, hey, can you please leave a review? We would definitely love to hear from you. But making it to where it's easy and navigating that. Don't just put them out there and say, go in there and ask all these questions. No, because that's going to make them kind of fall back and not want to do it. I think as leaders, that's our goal, is to go in and help them be able to be comfortable in doing that. And that takes practice, right? That's at the end of the day. Maybe it's something in writing. Maybe it's something, on the phone if they're not comfortable in person and doing phone follow-up calls. But at the end of the day, find out what makes them comfortable at the end of the day.
Lissi, recognizing and rewarding team members, they're delivering exceptional customer service. It's crucial. Can you share some innovative ways to acknowledge and appreciate the efforts of our maintenance teams?
Yeah, so I always think it's important to recognize our team members for their hard work, dedication, right? Especially our maintenance teams, whether that's in-house awards, whether that is recognition on their intranet, like they have like a community like intranet within their company, or whether they're recognizing their team members through associations for top maintenance. Or maybe they're recognizing them through gift cards, things that they love. Don't give them gift cards that is something you want, something that's going to be more tangible for them. At the end of the day, I think it's very valuable to make sure that we're recognizing our teams, that they're doing something really good and doing the hard work, but it's also a motivator in that. And sometimes it's not even about an incentives when it comes to money. Sometimes incentives can really come to the thank you cards, or you're doing a great job, or I'm going to sit here and and let everyone know that you're top maintenance of the team this week, or appreciation. I think it goes far and long. But I think at the end of the day, ask your team members from the beginning, what motivates you? What makes you want to feel like it feels great, right? And you'll find out that a lot of times it's not about money. It's just, the biggest one is just thank you. I appreciate you. Those words can go so far that we don't sometimes even realize.
Definitely vouch for how correct that is. I mean, there's days I'm soaking wet, covered in who knows what, and I'm miserable. I love my job, but there's days where I'm going to be miserable. My hands are busted. Everything hurts. I've thrown a muscle out. And all it really takes is, hey, you're killing it today. You've met all your metrics today. You're doing this. You're doing this. Thank you so much. And even coming from a resident, you come out there, you fix this heater, and you're just doing your job. And they're thanking you. And, they're like, oh, you're Superman. I'm like, just fix your heater. Well, you're Superman to me. Little bitty things like that make this job so much easier. It's just a little bit of, hey, we see what you're doing. We appreciate that. And I think that goes for a lot of people. A lot of people aren't going to admit it, but nobody doesn't like to say that they're doing a good job.
Yeah, it makes you feel important, and that's what it matters. So it brings on a different take when you come to work every single day. So
definitely can resonate with that. So let's see, this looks like it'll be one of my final questions. So you're an expert in leadership development. I like that. How do you approach building these leadership skills within the maintenance team to ensure they align with the goals of your training program?
how I always like to look at it in a different perspective. I like to pull back and to say, okay, how can I do this? And like if I was to do with any other leadership program, right? And that's really making sure that I get the resources, I do the research, I sit there and make sure I'm very insightful in my trainings, but at the same time, making sure that I'm providing all the necessities that they need to be successful, whether that is implementing performance goals, how to do that, how to look for that, how to actually put that in action to be able to be successful with your company's objectives and their ending goals, right? But then also, how can we be a team player too? What does that look like? And how can we communicate with our customers to where they are getting that satisfaction as well? So all of those are aligned in my my training sessions, where it's broken up in modules so that they can see that it's not overly, but it's one at a time, to where then they can take back and say, okay, these are my key takeaways. This is what I can go put in action and then come back to. And at the same time, have fun with it, right? I think that is ultimately the ending goal. I don't want to make it boring.
Definitely agree with that. We want to, when you're entertained, you're engaged.
Exactly.
Lissi, thank you so much for being here with us today, sharing your wisdom, your expertise, talking about your new program. I'm excited to see it, being executed out there, to see the impact that you're making. I'd like to give you the opportunity to share some closing thoughts with us, with the audience here.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. This was fun. I definitely love to talk about things that I'm very passionate about, and especially with this new session that I am embarking on. It will be exciting, and we can navigate this all together. So all your maintenance teams out there or leaders, this is the course for you to hop on. But I really want to leave you with these thoughts: is when you create a culture of open communication and collaboration, you can help foster a sense of teamwork. And I think ultimately that's what we want. And as leaders, we should be able to do that, because what happens is then we are then thriving to have an exceptional customer service. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we are all aiming for, that 5-star service. And so if anything, if I could bring that to your teams or bring that to you, that's what I'm here for. You definitely can reach me at lissi@lissidaniels.com.
Jason, your first podcast as a guest co-host, as a co-host. Any thoughts about this experience?
Well, I might not drink so much coffee beforehand because I have a hard time sitting still to begin with. That was challenging. My mind is racing. There's so much to say and so much to think about. I'm just glad we had this experience. Lissi, you have so much knowledge, and I love that we can tap into that. It's fantastic, honestly. This has been a great experience for me. Overall, I love everything about this.
Lissi, Jason, thank you so much for joining us today. Jason is a co-host, Lissi is a guest. I'm Adrian Daniela, I'm your host. Multifamily Chronicles, thank you all very much for watching us today. We hope to see you back here soon. Have a great day.